Hi, Harry. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being on the call today. It is 2:02 on a Wednesday rainy afternoon here in South Florida. So we have 21 participants on the call and a handful here in the room. This is our first scheduled meeting, stakeholder meeting of what is planned for over the next few weeks to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them, I think. And so, you know, if we get 30 or so per deal, then I think we've got a good general feedback from everybody. So, since I don't know how Jason intends to operate this, I'm going to throw it right to you and let you take it and run with it, okay?
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate it. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody out in Zoom. Thank you. And Zoom land there. So my name is Jason Straka. For those of you that haven't met, this is Patrick Burton. Patrick and I work together. Today is, we promised to listen, right? So hopefully all of you had joined from the very beginning and listened to the town hall meeting or went back and watched it on video. Andy's working the logistics here. But we promised to listen, and today really is more about us listening. So, you know, we can spur the conversation on, you know, there's some things that we want to glean out of this, but really, you know, it's interesting because a lot of times we'll ask 1 or 2 questions, and the next thing you know, we're off and running, and an hour to 2 hours passes by, and everybody still wants to talk about the golf course. So that's a good thing. That's all a good thing. Just to sort of give everybody an update of where things stand, Dan's doing a great job and the staff with the data loggers. So we've got hundreds now. So it's great. So I don't know if you're just running out there and just tagging them to everybody, and they don't even know that they're carrying them or what. But
no, the members have been very willing to take them. They're excited to take them.
That's great. So we've well passed over 200 already, which is, we're getting fantastic feedback. The survey is going really well. I think we've been live for 5 days now. Is that about right? And we've well over 600 surveys already turned in. So again, it's great feedback. So today's just more intimate, more one-on-one. Patrick and I, we really want to listen. Some of the things, you know, that we're interested in knowing, okay? So we can take conversation in any number of directions. Obviously, you've recently done a renovation on the South Course, right? And so you just had a survey about that, which Bill's generously going to give it to us. So for us, it has nothing to do with, you know, a referendum or critiquing or anything like that, but most places that have at least 36 holes like to have something that's complementary but different, right? So neither course looks the same. And so we want to know more about your impressions of the South Course after the renovation, likes, dislikes, how you foresee this being different, in what regard. We'd like to know some things about the practice facilities, you know, what you like about it, maybe things that you have in mind that you would like to see either changed or expanded or altered. And then also, you know, through your eyes, what your vision of this project is, right? So what's the end game, the big picture item, right? How you would like to enjoy this golf course for the next, you know, God willing, 20 plus years, right?
Okay. So if I can just jump in, so a lot of you, have you allowed to unmute themselves? So you can unmute yourself anytime you want to talk today. But when you're not speaking, if you would mute your phone, because we get an awful lot of feedback noise from your spouses talking to you, to your phone ringing, to your dogs barking. So if you could, if you're speaking, certainly unmute yourself, say what's on your mind, but mute yourself between your speaking. It would really be helpful to everybody in the room. Okay.
So how about we kick off some big general picture items? So let's just talk about differences between North and South, even right now. You know, so what are the things that you like, you know, to see, or, you know, that, so just why don't you give some feedback in that regard? Anybody?
Yes. I like a lot of things about the North Course.
Such as?
I think it's plain Jane course in some ways. It's quiet. It's really, I think, very pretty without a lot of gussied up aesthetics into it. While people say there are too many ponds, I think that blends into the aesthetic view. But my most, I guess, the best thing I can say about it is that I think it offers great challenge and still allows recreational golf for the membership, primarily the majority of the membership, to play in to their skill levels and to enjoy it. I think it's a happy course. And I'll pass the baton over and then hope it comes back to me again.
We'll make sure it is.
I'd like the South Course. I feel like I'm in a minority. I don't like 7, and I really don't like, I don't like 5, and I really don't like 7. But other than that, I enjoy the course. I can reach every green, except those 2. Well, that's not exactly true. It's tough if you miss the green, but I find it interesting. So one of your questions was, which course do you like better? I answered one or the other, but to me, there's not a lot of preference difference. That's one comment.
Why do you think you're in the minority?
Because the guys I play with say so.
Well, so then the next question I have, you can feel free to chime in. So what?
The difficulty, especially if you miss a green. You know, if you're playing with the old 3, so that's 12. You know, you can hit a good shot, you roll over, and not only are you off the green, but you're in some sort of hills or valleys. And there's a couple of places like that.
Do you find out of those a lot?
I've tried different things, and I do that, yes.
Yeah. So do you prefer to be in that type of situation if you miss a green, or in bunkers? Neither.
I don't know the answer. It depends on the lie. If I'm downhill, looking over there and I have a downhill lie, I'm not crazy about that. But I missed the shot. I shouldn't have an easy one coming back.
Right. So what about your playing partner? Is there any of your playing partners on Zoom or in the room?
Just this one here.
Okay, so he can speak for himself, but what about the other guys then, or ladies?
I would say, I get a lot of comments like that. I don't like the South Coast type of thing, but I don't get specific.
Why do you think that is, though, out of curiosity?
It's difficult, it's more difficult. I would say that's the reason. Now, is that the reason I like the course? I don't know.
But it's rated easier, the South Course is. And
The slope or the rating?
is it the slope and
It's the rating.
All of the challenges.
And so it's gotta be longer then. I don't think it's rated either, it's shorter. Oh, it's rated easier, so it's shorter.
Short putt rapid, not a lot of rough, you can putt from a swale. According to the FSGA, those are parameters for a lower rating.
Yep, that's true.
Well, we're talking about, I don't like 7.
Which one is 7 now? Because you have to keep it.
3, no, the par 4, bunker in the front. So for someone who puts my distance, I'm usually hitting a long iron at best to that green. So I can't go to the right if that's where the pin is. And a lot of times when I go to left, I'm starting to treat it as an easy par 5. If I go left, a lot of times I'll hit and roll over, and I'm back in those swales again. So it's too shallow. I find the game too shallow.
So,
And I'm like my slope now is probably, my handicap is probably around 14, 13, something like that. You're lower. Oh, yeah, I definitely play. My clubs don't go as far as they used to, though.
Wow.
Damn close, damn close. I bought it from Dan.
And we're gonna keep scribbling, so go ahead, you don't have to wait for it, so.
Well,
I enjoy the South course with some exceptions, that whole being one course. The greens are so, to me, I'm a 20 handicap. The greens, are much more difficult. I mean, there's just so many, manipulations there that, it's hard for me to read them at all.
can I have a minute? No. Okay. I really kind of would like to focus my thoughts about the north course, or would you rather stay on the south?
No, go ahead. Yeah,
Well, I kind of, again, I hate to get into satisfaction level, but, you know, the North Course has provided so much satisfaction to the membership since it was renovated in 2005. It had some hokey issues with it prior to 2005, and then it came to a major renovation, at least by our standards, a major renovation by Kip Schulteis. And after that, the satisfaction level just went way up here. Now, until a couple of years ago, I didn't know it wasn't a good course. So I think the reasons why people like it is, you know, just starting with the cart paths. You hardly even see them. You kind of meander through the course without seeing hard pack areas, or I guess you refer to them as screening areas. It's too busy for my brain. I don't think we have any bunkers in the center of fairways or on the balls to the sides.
Do you like that, or?
I do not like bunkers. Sand bunkers are man-made affairs, and I think all they are is punishment for the majority of players. But that's just a personal opinion. I don't want to, grieve over that. I think the other thing is, the green bunker complexes. That's the nub of the golf course, really, because our tees are all set up at very good levels, except for the ladies. I don't presume to speak for the ladies, but they do not have a hybrid course there on the north. But the key green bunker complexes, you see what you see, all the hazards are in front of you. Mm-hmm. There are no basic hidden hazards, so that if you hit an errant shot, you might have to chip back, but you don't find yourself in a pot bunker, so to speak. Yeah. The slopes to the greens, I think, are literally perfect, because if you don't get to the green, you have an opportunity to chip, putt, or pitch. I think that's a tremendous opportunity for players. So the majority of handicappers here. And then I'll pass the baton again.
I'll go. Just some general thoughts. Golf courses are like decorating your house, right? Everybody's got their own taste and their own views about what they like to see, and
right.
One person's nirvana is another person's nightmare, right? So some personal thoughts would be, I'd love to see the North Course be a little bit more exciting. It is, like Mike said, it's a little bit plain Jane. It's a good golf course, but I think we can do some things to what we already have, which I'm excited about.
So in your mind, what are those things that would make it more exciting? Because we have our own, what that means, interpretation.
But I've got a whole list about hole, and I'll get that to you.
Okay.
I can give you a lot more detail. But maybe looking at 4, par 3. Okay. So we've got a long carry hole there. There's lots of opportunities there. We've talked about, taking the path from the left side, moving it over to the right side, playing, which I think is a great idea. We've got also, I live there. Do you live there? Yeah. So we can run it right. I didn't interrupt. So I think it'd be better to have kind of a throw-off area for higher handicap players, but you could also take the water a little closer to the green and make it more aesthetically pleasing. So while in the back, you can still access that sort of thing. In the front, it would look more like an olive green and be a little bit more penal. You've got a huge front porch in front of that green right now, right? Which, I'm not sure that that's a great layout area because a lot of the ladies, that are hard handicapped can't get over that water. So I think you have to position the tee in a different place. But for the players that really want to bite off more, right, the aesthetics of it, off the golf course, I think makes a big difference. So that's just one idea.
Okay.
On one hole. Proceeding hole 3, you've got water on the left, you've got water coming across the fairway. I think there probably should be a little bigger landing area out at the driver or the 3-wood distance. You can't get a driver there. And 3-wood is questionable for more handicapped players. So if you narrowed the water in the landing area, provide more landing area, but then as you hit your shot into that green, you really can't see much of the green on the left side.
Right.
It's blocked by bunkers, right? Just one of my philosophies is you shouldn't trick up a golf course. Golf course is a golf course. You should always be able to see the green or most all of it from the fairway. Now, you may not be able to see it from the tee, but you should see your landing area from the tee. And then you should be able to see, certainly, the green from your approach shot. Okay, like 6 on the south course, right? So my house is right over on that side. And most folks, I guess one function, don't like that hole, right?
Don't like which hole?
6 of the south. Right. Okay. It's really tricked up. You got palm trees, you got water, you can't see the approach shot, you can't see any of the green from the approach shot, which is ridiculous. Okay.
Especially when you miss it 2 paces to the right of the green and the ball kicks out of bounds.
So basically what you're doing, I figured it out. I mean, the tree is about halfway, the palm tree, which is right there, is about halfway in the center of the green. You shoot your palm tree, see what the distance is, then you shoot the flag, then you can tell whether the flag is behind the palm tree or in front of the palm tree, right? Which is, come on, a windmill and a clown's mouth, right?
So is that what you had in mind?
That's 4 hole. A concept.
Yes.
Andy?
Very definitely. Okay.
Andy?
So, yes.
I don't know why, but it can almost impossible to understand what the gentleman who has just been speaking was saying.
Oh, okay, then I think the table is slid a little too far that way, so I'm just gonna ask you to speak up a little bit more, if you would.
Sorry about that, Gary. So, I think that diagram, if you brought the water in just a little bit more, kind of on the right side, it completes my thought, but I like that, okay?
But those are the types of things that you're thinking of making it more exciting.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's correct. But also allowing for higher handicap players to bite off as much as they want, right, on the right side. And that's my third point, playable by all, but we can bite off, whatever we want to. And we can play from different tees, which will give us different looks on different days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think that was a miss on, for instance, on 6 on the south. We've got all that area, I talked to Joe and Dan about it before, it's a perfect place for a double green, where you could really move the flag from the right side to the left side on different days. You got that trap on the left side, which really doesn't come into play, but you've got all that room over there on the left side to really give it some character. I'd also like to be able to see the greens as well from my approach shot, right? Another point, use traps to accentuate the golf course, not defend the golf course. We don't need to defend the golf course. It's not Fort Knox, right? If somebody shoots a good round and they hit the fairway and they hit it to the green every time, they should shoot a low score. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, right? but let's use traps to frame the picture that we're trying to set visually from the tee. And that kind of goes back to point number one. Really exciting, but not punitive. Certain traps that we've got on the south course, like on the par three, 3, 4, they're setting back from the greens, serve no purpose. And they're extremely hard from a maintenance standpoint, obviously, because we've got really small pothole bunkers that can't get machines in.
So you think it's over bunkered?
It's over
In
bunkered.
general?
Yeah.
Interesting, I mean, not one particular one, just in general.
In general.
Is that what a lot of your playing partners think too?
I don't know the answer to that.
You're shaking your head yes, though.
I am, yeah.
Do you hear that a lot?
I hear more about the small pot bunkers versus bunkers in general.
Okay. So two questions, and I wouldn't know off the top of my head, but maybe you do, roughly how many you have.
On the south?
Yeah.
On the south, we have about 2 and about 3 on the north.
But the north has wider features.
Correct.
So like on 7, we were talking about that just a minute ago. 7, where we've got a few of those small little bunkers up front. You know, it's you got watering on the left side. You're hitting probably a longer iron shot into that green. It's elevated. It slants off the back. Level of difficulty there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got small pot bunkers in front of it. We don't need to defend that hole that much, right? Let's make it more playable for all concerned. If you hit a good shot in there and it holds, because it's such a slick and elevated green anyway, right? So that's something that's a suggestion for the north. Let's not reward a good shot into a green. It should hold, it shouldn't roll off, and if you're close in front, you should have an area that you can chip up center, which is from that pot bunker on top of that green, and keep it from rolling off the back.
Right.
Right?
The other day, I can do on the phone together for, I would say 45 minutes. And it relates to a question that I asked, and Bill answered me at the other meeting last week, the Zoom meeting. Why are we doing it? It seems to me, from what Bill said in response to me and some other things that he said, that we need to do infrastructure, piping water, I guess it is. We need to do something with the grass. We need to do something with the greens. And then we're doing other changes to the course. So it seems to me that the question is, why are we doing this? Why are we doing it? Because that's going to determine, do we want a brand new golf course? Do we want to just fix infrastructure and grasses? What are we trying to do, and how much should we be doing? I don't know the answer to it, but I think that's the question that we really have to answer up front, right? Am I saying that right, Mike?
Yeah, again, it gets back to we already have what we perceive to be, I'll have to tell you, having been here 23 years and seeing the renovation in 2005 and fully understanding that your job is so better, the satisfaction level is so great that I think that's the basis of this question. I don't presume to say it a different way, but if we're happy golfers and we love coming off a good golf course that allows for recreational golf to be played by the majority of members, his question, I think, is why would you change that significantly?
And I apologize. No, but I don't know the answer to that. I don't know how I feel about it. I see that there's some things that have to be done, some things that we want to do. How far do we go in this question?
Well, and that's part of what this process is, right? So, I mean, we're putting a roadmap out to figure that out, right? So, I would tell you from doing dozens of these, so there's a number of things I'll address. One is that, we're trained to come in and look at some place and look at what could be, right? So I think, going through the interview process, and, there were a number of people that were in that interview, but, you know, looking at the possibility, the ideas, like number 4, right? You're looking at number 4 here, that was done for that interview. When Dana and I and Pat, when we stepped foot over there and we looked at the 4th hole and that had been recently renovated, you know, we looked at it and said, okay, you know, so what are the positives and what are the drawbacks, you know, of that existing hole as you're playing it today? You know, and so the things that we start to think about, we're like, well, gosh, you know, that there is no place for a high handicap to bail out. You know, they're praying to hit it over the water. When they make it over the water, now they're praying to hit it over the sand bunker, okay? There's no strategic value of right or left to that hole. You're just trying to make, you know, better players are keeping it on the straight and narrow, and everybody else is just trying to clear the hazards, you know, one or both of them. You know, then we're looking at it, okay, from a speed of play issue, you know, and a safety issue. So now you got people who drive all the way down the left-hand side of the green, you know, milling around over there, and when they're done, they're coming straight back into the line of play. And so, you know, that's not safe, nor is it fast. And so there's 3 things already we've identified, you know, within just a matter of minutes. You know, then we start to look from a playability standpoint and a strategic standpoint from a better golfer down to a less skilled golfer, saying, you know, exactly what you were talking about, take the pond up to the green, but only part of it. You know, and so then it becomes subjective. Do you block off 25% of it, 50% of it? What is it? And, you know, from when you're adding, so we're not adding, but when you're looking at from your skilled golfers on the back tees, it's not only the longest carry that's a challenge, but it's also typically the most difficult angle. And then, so you would notice is that every tee that we had sketched on here, you go forward, you go a little bit further to the right, a little bit forward, a little bit further to the right, right? So by the time you get to the most forward sets of tees, you have virtually no carry. Taking the water. Plus, you're taking that water and all of those things out of play. And so you're making it not boring, you're not dumbing the golf course down. So if you are a skilled enough golfer, you have the adequate amount of challenge. If you're a less skilled golfer and you're just trying to get around and have a nice day in the park, you can still do that. And so, you know, that becomes, you know, so that's what happened in just that one little hole. And we would go around and, I mean, it's, you know, we went through and we were just like created this huge list. You know, there were 15 or 20 different things to that. So, I mean, we are very confident now, you know, part of that is listening to you and milling through what's most important out of that list that we generate. You know, and it may be, and all of those things come associated with a cost too, right? So, the answer, go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
May I?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I'll direct this question directly at you, Bill, because we are stakeholders, the members. Yes, sir? Interchangeable. So, what consideration do you give to the 5 or 6 residents that will be having staged carts to their road left, coming over to the east, from west to east? And I think I measured it out precisely at 42 feet from my window to the pond.
On the left-hand side?
On the
So you're
right-hand side.
you're over here someplace?
Those are the 5 homes that you see, or 6 homes.
A lot.
So here's my question. I understand the design concept.
Yep.
But we also are owners, and you own the property. That's a real dilemma. So what consideration must be incorporated for the ownership of property versus changing a golf course for, I don't want to say dubious reasons, but reasons that have alternatives? I'm not sure I want to see 60 carts every day of my life coming right next to my window. That means you're going to have to foreshorten north-south the pond, I believe. I don't think there's enough structure there.
Or you might have to take cart path left of the tees and, you know, that case. I mean, so understand, it's, you know, we've done a number of these projects where people within the community are members, right? You buy into the house, you're a member, right? And an owner, you know, so that's what, you know, in this case, the stakeholder, you're an owner. We have had discussions that long-term views, you know, I gotta need to be able to see the clubhouse, I've gotta do this, you know, and we go through that. I mean, I've been in, I don't want this to sound wrong, but I mean, I've been in so many ladies' soap parties, in golf course communities, it would boggle your mind. And it's just listening to people, you know, go standing on the second, you know, story of their home, you know, to understand what their view is.
So, Bill, I'd like to address the question to you as the general manager and having been here, and I'm putting you on the spot, I guess. So does the design prioritize itself over the stakeholder? And you have 6 stakeholders, with each home being well over $500,000.
Yes, sir.
And I do think I think it is going to impair our pleasure of life over there. If you, pardon me, Jason, I have the deepest respect for you folks.
No, I understand.
But I would like to have you give us some clarity on that. Do you take priority for the design of the golf course? And I might add that hole, I believe, has been the featured hole on the website for the last 10 years. So I don't mean to be argumentative. I just think we are stakeholders, and as stakeholders, I think we're to be respected in terms of.
I agree. We have, and I would tell you, I think we have to do everything with care and concern for all of our stakeholders, not just the 6 that live on that home,
Sure.
but the 988.
Call me if you need.
And so I don't know the answer to that. I think we'll work through the answer to that. I was told by a member that the cart path used to go down that side.
Yes, but it was a totally different pond. And again, I don't want to understand that, and I don't want to, you know, but I don't know the answer to that. I think we'll get there as an organization over time. And I think they're here to listen to your concerns. Absolutely. Yes.
You know, I think going back to what, Mike, you were saying earlier about recognizing the golf course, right, keeping it substantially kind of the way you like it, is there a way, at least in my mind, is there a way to keep all of those attributes that we really like and we're fond of, but also now bring a new accentuated view, you know, an overlay, some tweaking of the holes, not everything, and I don't want to blow up the golf course. I don't think we have probably the capital to do that anyway. But where we can take advantage of the natural opportunities to accentuate what we have, and maybe improve on that. And yeah, that's a win-win in my mind. Maybe that's not possible, but I do think the golf course can benefit from a holistic outside view, and all of us that have been around this golf course for a while, me as a member not so long, but I've been here a long time with my in-laws, so I'm familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
Do some things that really, I think, bring the excitement and refresh the golf course so that members coming in, and frankly, members that are already here, will have a new and renewed experience on that side. I think it's possible to do both.
So I'm curious as to, going back to your question about homeowners, how did you guys handle the houses around the golf course? What happened with the?
I think you have to give consideration to any significant changes that you do and try to work with the homeowners.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, the ponds, again, people think there's too many ponds, they have too many ponds on the north course, because they do create automatic penalties. When you hit the ball into it, you can't recover from it, you get penalties.
Right.
However, you know, ponds offer things other than water. There's bird life there.
Sure.
They have a lot of variety of ecologic issues. And it's not just about me and, you know, 80 or 90 cars a day going by there. But I think design for the quote betterment of the future golf course should not take precedence over homeowners. I'm not wording it well, but I think you know exactly what I mean. And so I'll just stop right there.
So I think that for the other people who live on the community, you know, quite honestly, I think that what we would strive to do would be to create better views. One of the design sort of styles of the North Course right now is it has a lot of perimeter mounding. That's okay if it's communities that aren't part of Quail Ridge, right? So, you know, that part, you know, can be berm, landscapes, you know, you're trying to create a buffer with that. However, you know, you just start going through all the different holes. Number 2, back right of number 2. I remember the first time that we looked at number 2. I said, I feel bad for the people who live back here. You know, why? I go, because all they're doing is looking at the back of a bunker hill. I said, they can't see the pond. They can't see the golf hole. All they can see is a big mound. You know, their patio or their lanai is down at the table level, you know, and they've got a huge 8-foot mound, you know, there. I go, what kind of view is that? And that goes around, you know, hole after hole after hole after hole.
And those people are still grousing about it. I know them. You've had some issues with it.
Yeah, I didn't even know about that.
But Bill knows a lot about that issue, and we had to pacify those people in some way, didn't we? For reasons you know better and can explain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it created a lot of unpleasantness for the Thomases, the Salvies, the McDonalds, and on.
So those mounds are created after the fact?
They were created about 7 years ago or 8 years ago. It wasn't so much the mounding as it was the mounding came first, and they lost sight of the water on both ponds.
Sure.
But then they planted some copper leaves, which just grow like wildfire. And so then they couldn't even see.
All the natives, and they really blocked it out.
Which one is it? You know, number 3. Well, it'd be the key at number 3. Yeah. So it was the 3 right side of the path. Yeah.
Well, everybody here will be happy to know that that's not our typical grading or design style, so there won't be a whole lot of blocking homeowners. Actually, you'll be a lot of better views.
Can I make, I feel like I'm taking over here, I don't need to. I think we need to be very careful what we do with number 14 green area on the north. You know, if you think about it, it's right out at Boynton Beach Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the great things about it is you don't hear any Boynton Beach traffic. And if we start meddling with that area in there, I am afraid it could become a audio nightmare with traffic. It's a heavily trafficked area. And right now it's disguised pretty well, don't you think?
Tucked in there very nicely.
Yes, so I wanted to make that point that number 14 area is a significant area to be wary of.
It goes back to your concept.
Right?
Can we just speak up if we want to say something here? I'm on the video or the Zoom or whatever. And I appreciate a lot of the comments that were made. I'd like to express my comments about North, I guess, and South. But particularly North, I'm Richard Dunn. I don't know if you can see me or not. Both courses, but North in particular, the large green complexes afford us a tremendous variety of play. When Joe has a mean streak, he can put the pins in areas that probably make at least a half a stroke difference, minimum. This includes the 4th hole. With the pin back left, it's a tremendous difference. With the pin even back right, there's a tremendous difference in play. The routing of the South course was barely changed during its redesign, a recent redesign. And as a result, I think there were very few people that lived on the course that were offended, although I do know some. And it would be totally unfair, I think, to make a routing change on a hole such as 4 North, which really doesn't need it. What, in my opinion, it needs is the removal of that large, gigantic bunker that forms a double hazard for those that can't hit it over the water, essentially. If you watch some of the ladies or some of the older gentlemen, I'll put myself in that category, when we hit it in that bunker, it's, if you're infirm, it's devastating, okay? And it's unnecessary. The water could be extended a little bit. It doesn't need to be. The grass can be brought back down to the, right down to the water line. That's all that's needed. If you hit it there, you got a chance of making 3 or 4 or 5. You have no chance if you're in that sand trap. Other than that, there's not much that the 4th hole needs. Where the changes really are needed, in my opinion, are on our number 8 hole, number 1. That has been poorly redesigned 2 or 3 times, and it's still not right for the person that can't hit it out far enough to hit an 8-iron into that green. If you're back there, you're hitting a 5-wood or a rescue club into that green, just slightly off to the left, you're in the water and down into that marsh. It needs to be changed. This whole sloping of that fairway in front of the green. The 9th hole, which is the par 3, that's the par 3 that needs correction. If you've ever watched anyone hit the ball off the tee into the sand about 100 yards from the green, and then watch him hit 3 or 4 more shots till he or she reaches the green, you could understand what I mean. That trap is totally unnecessary. It prevents an easier flow to the hole. In other words, allowing people to drive up left or right. And Joe may not agree with this, but giving access to the green via cart, okay, speeds play. And that's what we are in need of at Quail Ridge. We need 4-hour rounds. This is critical to our existence, our economic existence, okay? The same thing applies to value. What is the value of moving the cart path? How much does that cost? And redoing number 4, I question that, okay? Secondly, while I'm on cart paths, okay, we have a cart path structure on the North Course, which, as someone said earlier, minimizes the view of cart paths. They're concrete cart paths. About 85% of them are still solid. There's a couple that have been necessarily abused by construction vehicles, like on the back of the 9th hole, that are cracked and in need of, that'll never stand up as it's currently designed, okay? But in any event, I see we do not need to change 85% of our cart paths, okay? They don't go through the course. They're not necessary to go to course, even with the bad drainage that we have now, supposedly. We are ready for play on the North Course within a day of a very strong shower, more than a shower, a significant rain, okay? We've got good drainage there. You guys will make it even better, I'm sure. So those are some of the comments that I make. The large size of the green, works on the south. That helps. I'm sure it helps spread the play throughout different areas of the green. On north, it's fabulous. You go hole by hole on north, you can create a totally different golf course by placing the pins in certain spots. And that is what makes north a fantastic golf course, in my opinion. It doesn't need a lot of change, but I'm sure I've looked at a number of works that you guys have done in various parts of the country. I admire it. I'm one that would spend money on a golf course before I'd spend money on a lot of other things. I hope I'm sure you'll do a great job for us.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else on the Zoom, please feel free to jump in. Just unmute yourself whenever you're ready.
Bill, I have a question in a whole different area. One of the issues that's being talked about is the possibility of a pool. For the record, I'm really not in favor of that, but up in Mariner Sands, that pool that's right near the eating area. The problem for us is around the eating area is the practice area, the putting green. There's nothing there. If we are thinking about a pool somewhere along the line, is that something that should be thought about, in this process? I raised the question, that's really all.
The dining area, around the pool?
I think at Mariner Sands, it would be similar to us if we were having lunch on the patio here, outside of Quail's. The pool at Mariner Sands is where our putting green would be.
Yeah, but it's a completely different facility. So you got the clubhouse across the street up on the hill, at Mariner Sands, and then you've got the pool, and it's got its own little restaurant bar with a nano wall, kind of like we have over here. So,
Well, my only question is that something that should be on the table here? I'm not in favor of it, but I think if we're doing it, we might want to think.
I don't think it belongs on the table here with discussion of the North Course, but it's certainly being considered with the master planner and executive committee. And there'll be additional town halls on that subject this fall once everybody's back.
I might give you a free session.
If you can identify who that is.
On that same subject, Bill, here's my question. I know that the golf course designers try and help, but mentioned that they had a tremendous success rate in getting the memberships to approve their plans, and I'm happy to hear that. What I want to make sure that they're aware of is that there's, I guess, possibly an intent to incorporate a pool into these plans. And I would like to know if they're aware of that, and that it may very well jeopardize the chances of people voting for their work.
So this is the first that I've heard about a pool. We're not pool designers. So, I mean, we do, part of the discussion is in and around the clubhouse itself. So when we first looked at the property, it was more focused on the north golf course, but we typically will take a more holistic approach looking at opportunities to improve the practice facilities, short game, putting greens. So we have our own early opinions, about what's out there now, looking at potential opportunities and challenges. We have talked to some members already, about that, looking at, some of the unused spaces. For as nice of a club as it is, the chaos with the bikes, which I think is a really unique attribute of the club. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it certainly can be more organized in season, because frankly, it just looks like a big free-for-all. Those types of things, I think, are definitely part of the project. Now, if you came to us and said, you need to put a pool someplace in and you need to reserve a quarter of an acre, okay, we can work with that, that's fine, but, that's all we're gonna be able to do with that.
So let me jump in here. Mr. Dunn, for the architects as well. So we have hired a master planner, just as we've indicated that we would be doing this summer. So we've done two things. We've hired golf course architects to help us with the golf course, the short game, putting green, driving range, and the general circulation area around the clubhouse. We've hired a master planner to help us look at the future replacement of the tennis facility. If there was to be a pool, some options of where it might be and what it might look like and be like, the Southgate entrance area, and then also look at the circulation, because they build clubhouses for a living and they understand the circulation around clubhouses. And so ultimately, I think it would take the master planner and our golf course architects coming together to agree on what the circulation looks like around the clubhouse. There's never been any discussion of a pool being around the clubhouse itself. It would be located somewhere other if you were to consider it somewhere in the future. And so the executive committee is simply doing the initial work to put it in front of the members, and then they're gonna take your guidance on this issue.
We have a question from chat. As a good friend of mine recently played the second course of Arcadia Bluffs in Michigan, which I understand you designed. It opened 3 years ago. I was told a course has 218 bunkers. Isn't that an unusually large number of bunkers for a course that is a philosophy of your design insofar as use of bunkers, average number of bunkers? My hope is that your design of the north course will have a small fraction of that number so that they come into play primarily in the green complexes when golfers undershoots or hits off the green, as opposed to landing good shots on the greens, only to have them roll off into very shallow or domed green, with very shallow and domed greens.
Question in there. Right, so there's a question in there. The 218, we were hoping for more like 400 here. No, I'm joking. Everybody hear that? I am joking. So, to be honest, I'm not sure who wrote that question, but I do not know, quite honestly, how many bunkers the South Course has. I don't think I've ever counted them. Have you ever counted them?
No, I did plenty of them, but
So, that was, for those of you who don't know, or maybe know something about Arcadia Bluffs. So Arcadia Bluffs is across the lake, on Lake Michigan from Whistling Straits. The original golf course has 14 of the 18 holes has tremendous views of Lake Michigan, incredibly dramatic. So we had the gentleman who actually did the design there worked for our company years and years ago. And then he ended up that he became such good friends with the owner of Arcadia Bluffs that he went to work for him. So when they decided to add a second facility there, they had called us and said, we would like you guys to design the second golf course at Arcadia Bluffs. And we said, wow, that's quite an honor, it's fantastic. And then we said, where's the property? Thinking maybe it's going to be 14 out of 18 holes overlooking Lake Michigan. And they said, it's about a mile south and a mile inland on an old apple orchard. And we went, all right, so everybody now wants to go to Arcadia Bluffs because it's like playing in Ireland on the ocean, but then here you have a relatively flat piece of property inland. You need to make something, just as intriguing, right, as the original golf course. So this goes to answer some of the questions. So we don't have a specific design style. We have design philosophies, right? And so that's very different than a design style. So, I know that was sort of a focus, design style of the South Golf Course because it's peat dye and you're trying to keep, that sort of peat dye element to it. That's, that was Bobby Weed, right? So that design style is very much sort of, he was a mentor, right? Pete Dye was Bobby's mentor. That's where that style, starts to evolve from. For the South Golf Course at Arcadia then, so you have to try to come up with something which was very intriguing. And so one of the concepts that was floated early on was to mimic what a place called Chicago Golf Club. Chicago Golf Club is one of the most difficult golf courses to get on in the world, but it's also incredibly revered. And it was designed by designers called Seth Rayner, right, and C.B. McDonald. And so the vast majority of their golf courses, again, so you can start going down the list of Piping Rock and Fisher's Island, Yale, National Golf Links. So, but they had a very specific design style. Most of their projects are very private for whatever particular reason. So the general public never really gets to see them. And so we said, what if we ended up not copying Chicago Golf Links, but copying that style of what Seth Rayner and C.B. McDonald did? So that is to a T. That's why if you actually study the design of South Course at Arcadia Bluffs, it has enormous greens, averaging about 9,000 square feet. So you think that the green size, your green sizes on the north course here are how big? Maybe 6? 5 to 6. 5 to 6. So you think that those are big? Nearly double them, okay? with huge contours sweeping through them. The greens are rectangular to even squarish. I mean, so if you actually look at pictures, they come to a 90-degree point in many cases. Again, that's not something that we would necessarily propose here, just like if that is in fact true, we wouldn't be, the bunker number, we wouldn't be proposing that here. Okay, but there, the fairways are incredibly wide, and then we created these different strategic angles, very much like Chicago Golf Club, very much like the other golf courses they played. So it became, something which was drastically different than the 14 of 18 holes of overlooking water, and, something which, again, is mimicking a style which is very revered, by many golfers and golf clubs. But, something, again, where general public brings an intrigue because they haven't seen that style before, right? So, we wouldn't bring 200 and some odd bunkers if in fact that's the case. I'd be interested to go count them now. But just as we wouldn't propose 9,000 square foot greens with squared off edges, 90-degree edges here, right? So hopefully that answers the question.
Sleepy Hollow stuff, Brandon, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and then everything's squared off.
That's right.
Yeah.
Everything's squared off. That is correct.
So do you view it as a dilemma when a good number of the membership really, I think, like the North Course here? And now you're called upon to provide services, and I read about your organization, and you guys are really top-notch. So comes the situation where how do you separate incorporating the design style that you think will fit our membership and still keeping a good number of the members who are already happier? I know it's a crazy question in a way, but
No, it's not a crazy question. So it's a very appropriate question, and it's one of the reasons why we're in the room right now. So, so there's a couple of things here. One is that you have infrastructure costs that need to get done. That's the reason why the project was started, right? So you're going to have, within ballpark numbers here, $2 million, give or take, on irrigation, right? And there's a number to separate irrigation from the homeowners, right? So that's part of it. Rebuilding the greens because they're of that age. Rebuilding the bunkers because they're of that age, right? Some of the drainage, improving some of the drainage. So you're going to come up with a number, right? That number may be $4 million, $5 million, whatever that number is, to basically improve the infrastructure of the golf course. Our job then is to say, okay, this is what essentially is the need to have, right? Then what we're trying to do is identify all the things that you really like about the North Golf Course. Keep those, maybe even enhance them when we can enhance them. And then if we can identify opportunities to make it even better, meaning things that you all really like, but make them even better or incorporate more of them, right? And then, so what's that cost then, right? So you have the need to have cost, and then here's the want to have cost. And what that does, right? So there's we call ROI, right?
But you're putting your signature on a course in a sense as a redo. And yet, I guess what I'm saying is, for instance, what if the members said, oh, we love number 2, and I happen to love number 2. I think it's a great par 5. Is it a great par 5 for a guy who's at 280? No, it's not. I love number 17. I think it's the quintessential par 4. But you're putting your name or your stamp on a golf course, perhaps, that you have come to renovate, and maybe you won't like the fact that members have too much input. Again, is that ill-phrased?
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, at the end of the day, you're the ones that are footing the bill, right? So our number one objective is to make as many people within the club, happy as can be happy. Sometimes our job, though, is as much as to listen, is also sometimes is to educate, too. I tell people, for instance, we go to some places that maybe haven't done this process before, and I'll say it's kind of like owning your first car, right? So now if I look out in the parking lot over here, there's a lot of nice cars that are out there. Well, but if my first car was a Dodge Horizon, but if that was the only car I've ever had, that would be, that's the pinnacle, right? So you don't know, sometimes you don't know what you don't know,
Got it.
right?
Clubhouse is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Yes, and we had a big fight over the clubhouse, you recall, right? And what several people wanted is not what they got. What they got was what most members wanted. And you presided over that, so you know how it was all handled. And I guess that's the rub in this, that we got a quiet elegance, a casual elegance, which is what we really wanted.
Justin, you, very quickly ballparked a couple of numbers. I heard 5 out of a possible 7. I thought those were the numbers you said. Is that a good ballpark, you think? In other words, you said we have to do $5 million worth of work to do what we have to do. The project could cost 7. So that means $5 million for what we have to do, $7 million for the whole thing. Is that what we're talking about here, do you think? The $2 million?
Well, could be 2, could be 3.
I know, I'm not holding it.
Could be 2, could be 3, that's, if you came to us and said.
Order of magnitude.
Sure, I mean, if you came to us and said, figure out how to spend $15 million, maybe we could do it, I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't be easy, but is there another $1 million, $2 million, $3 million? Sure, so for instance, we look at all of the, and may even be a different budget too, but we look at all of the perimeter landscaping, not so much on your homeowner, right, but some of the neighborhoods. That vegetation's starting to die back, some of it's not looking too good, so we're looking at improving the overall experience while we're in there doing this. One of the things, that we've identified is, we can go out and create a whole perimeter berm, right, and then re-landscape it, for a longer haul with better plant material. That's an improvement, so it's more tranquil when you're playing golf, it's more aesthetically pleasing, so those types of homeowners are going to appreciate it because they're not looking into somebody else's, neighborhood that may or may not be up to, quails.
Yeah.
But we're going to say, there's the benefits, here's the cost. Are you willing to pay for it?
So because when I hear a number like that, I'm like, well, that's not bad, because you have to do this much, and we're gonna do this much more.
Well, that is typically the case. So here's what happens a lot of times, and again, you've been through this, so you're more educated than a lot of clubs. But, you start talking about these numbers, and I don't want to be, casual about it, because they are big numbers, right? So you start talking about $2 million sounds a lot. Well, okay. But you think about however you're going to pay for this spread out over 1,600 members, or whatever the number was you just gave me. What does that really mean then if it gets stretched out over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? Sometimes it means, okay, I got an extra $5 a month or something, okay. So are you, then that's where the finance committee comes into it, right?
I was going to say, from a financial planning perspective, you're going to be in very good shape when we're anxious to present a financial model to you. We've had such a great year. We're at such a strong starting point. I don't want to talk any particular numbers, other than to say, I think everybody's is not going to find the financial model to be an inhibitor to this process in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
So you'll be focused on what do you want, not how is it going to get paid. So that's about the best encouraging thing I could say about the financial health of Quail Ridge at this moment. There's another question up on the chat board there. How long can we expect greens to last in South Florida, where basically no downtime, where there's basically no downtime in South Florida? How long can we expect greens to last?
That's why you get paid the big bucks here.
Well, if you look at USGA and the golf course builders, South Florida is a little different. It's mainly probably because of the climate, but 15 to 20 years, the big determining factor of how long greens last is construction, first and foremost. If you have quality construction, and then the maintenance every year. That's why we close the golf course twice every summer aerified, verticut greens, top dress. That's part of what makes them last. So if they're built correctly and the proper maintenance is performed, then I think 15 to 20 years is what you can expect out of it.
So talk to me about practice facilities, good, bad, indifferent, range, putting green. I've heard a lot of different comments from people, so I'm just curious to what everybody in the room here thinks.
With the outfit, do you really enlarge the main, hitting area, which is, north to south?
Length of width.
Oh, well, north, right, the driveway? Length. Some people complain, probably 5, 6, 8 people who get in from one end to the other end. So, it is a small number, small. I had to be one of those individuals. Yeah, but you can go diagonal. Yeah, well,
It's more than you think. It's like with the teeth up front. It gets to be close to a safety hazard.
It is a safety hazard when you have hitting on both sides, so I can't hit driver unless the wind is in my face, which obviously I don't, because I don't want to get anywhere close to anybody down the other end, right? So I would say that, it's a good driving range. It's a little bit more compact than I would like it. I would like to see the AstroTurf on the very back of the teeing area as opposed to in the middle, so that you can use it. I think it has more utility that way. Secondly, the palm trees that were placed there by Bobby Reed make 0 sense. I don't understand the palm trees in the middle of the fairway other than I hit them a lot. The hitting areas in the practice area need to be more pronounced. So when you're practicing, you want to hit to a target. You want to be able to see that ball land on a target, not disappear beyond the hill, or have two targets kind of blend in. I'm sorry?
They're back to back.
Yes, sir. Yes. So you want to have targets from both sides, if we're going to use both sides, that are practical. The other thing I would say about the short game area, it's a good short game area. There's a lot of clubs that don't have short game areas, number one, okay? Can we improve our short game area by making the chipping area a little bit more universal so more people can get around the green? Yes, we can.
Okay.
Could we do something with the practice sand, make it a little bit bigger so you get more people in the sand practice area? Yes, we could. There's some things that we could do, but I come from a place where Valhalla just put in a short game area by itself 2 years ago, right? They had no short game area. So it's a nice short game area compared to what a lot of people have. Can we make it better? Sure.
Does everybody the range tee or rain or which part?
Going from the clubhouse side to the north side. When you're hitting balls, you're just pointing out the palms, the whole in hills and dales. It just seems too cluttered.
Okay.
Rather than maybe banked up or something like that, where you do see the ball. You can see your flight time versus your roll, so to speak. Is that a thought? Yeah. We don't have that here.
You can put some distances in here.
Got it. Where do people typically park at? Do they just leave it in the staging area and walk over? How do you guys handle that?
Park all around mostly behind the range. Between the range and the putting green.
We do that.
Or go down here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then some will park along the left side. But
Sure,
majority will be all congested.
And people will typically wait a long time to get a range spot.
In season, it can be just, well, you got the north and south. You can drive down to the west or south.
We got another question on the chat. The driving range was just redone at the south course. Why is it on the table now?
It wasn't done correct. Wasn't done correct.
Is there an opportunity to make it better is the question?
Correct.
right? So if it didn't, I have my glasses, Andy, so it's hard for me to see, but whoever wrote that, so that is the answer, is just that, is there an opportunity to, you know, to make improvements?
Okay, here's another question. I'd like to see a covered practice area and a B space for a TrackMan simulator. Any possibility?
So, so whoever wrote that, are you asking for, covered from the shade or just covered from all elements? So an actual building?
I think that would lend around.
I'm sure we have the space.
And Ms. Randall, if you could expound upon your question, that would help. Is there a teaching over here or is it open one side? Okay, there you go.
So how would people like to have that if you had the ability to have a covered teaching, you know, if you have a lesson, no matter what the weather is, you can still, other than a hurricane, you know, can still go out and, you know, your lesson would be there and then have TrackMan and things that would be in it? Would you guys see?
Well, we've had a teaching building on the radar probably for the last, I would say at least 10 years for sure.
Okay.
We did, when I say we, the Golf and Green Committee put together this past season, we got together and prioritized what I guess we thought were the main improvement areas for the golf experience. And surprising to me, but the teaching facility was way down in priority. I don't know if you all remember that, but it was let's driving range, putting green. It was, yeah. So I think that kicked the can down the road a little bit, although I still firmly believe the members and the teaching experience would exponentially be improved if we had a building.
Garage check, which is probably teaching.
Right, yeah. So ironically, I was just pricing different ones out today, Patrick and I were, and so I think that it's prudent to see if we can find a space, and then, you know, that could be worked into, so if it doesn't get built right away, we should have it allocated.
Yeah, that'd be a home run.
The other thing that I think we ought to consider as we're talking about movement and space is the starter shack. That's a really important piece of the execution during the season. And there's lots of ideas and thoughts about where it should be and how it should be built and so forth. But we can talk about that sidebar. But I do think the starter shack needs to be redone and improved. And then we can talk about where it should be positioned best, and probably elevated as well, so that whoever's there can efficiently and effectively direct traffic.
How does that get used, right? I mean, so is it starter that's in there, or are there snacks and drinks in there, or what? Just starter.
Busy.
So
It would be nice to have a water and ice machine somewhere on that side, so that you don't have to go all the way back to the clubhouse, but that's a nice to have.
No, I'll see.
So that starters building, though, that's only for North Course, though, correct? Or is it for both?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so where it's located has, the 10th tee of the
Right.
South Course, the first tee of the North Course, the 9th, tee of the, 9th green, 18th green in the South Course, 18th green in the North Course.
Right.
And so for us to be able to track times that people are playing, whether it's 9 or 18 holes, to work toward our, no more than 4 policy, then he's in the right general location. Could it get out of the middle of the street? Yeah, I think it could get out of the middle of the street. I think we all agree with that. And so that there may be an area over there to the right of the, in the far corner of the short game area that's not used, that is more appropriate for it.
Bill, the Price Rocker Group doesn't know that we had a halfway house, and toilet facilities, both men and women, and, water service. Just as you come off the, President, 9th South Green. I firmly believe we ought to go back to at least having toilet facilities and watering facilities in that area that's not being used for anything. I know it's expensive.
No, it's on the plan for the master planner, and I think, again, the interaction with Brian Straka, would be important in terms of location, but it's on his list, to do, yes.
I don't know that we need food service.
How about
Depends on who you ask.
Yes.
right,
Right.
putting green? So I've heard comments that the putting green is generally too small. How is that held in this room?
No, you have to have a shot. It's just be a shot put. How often do we have
Everyone in America is when you do that.
Yeah.
I don't mind that.
No,
It would be nice to have more space to spread out the wear during the season.
I got vilified
Concern.
back in 2010, I think. I kind of suggested that we have two greens separated by a walk path, no carts in there. And I won't tell you what the description of my suggestion was. But I was not summarily dismissed. I was literally booted off, but I thought because we had two courses with two different types of greens,
Right.
that effectively it almost would, even though you give up small space,
Right.
if you could mow them differently, you could close one, keep one open.
Done that.
And I won't say what the comments were, but it basically taught me to, for a long time, keep my mouth shut. I'm joking.
I find that hard to believe.
It is hard. It is. I'm a mountain guy.
You're a dentist.
I'm a doctor.
So let me ask a question about, and I know it probably could be sensitive a little bit, the waterfall and the pond. How sacred? Let's put it this way. I'll ask it a different way. If we're able to give you more length, a bigger range, move the starters building, more parking space, bigger putting green, all of those things combined, and then how sacred is that waterfall on the pond?
I like the view when I'm having dinner inside.
Absolutely frames it.
What's that?
It frames it, yeah.
Yeah,
So is it more important, so what's more important, your golf experience or your view during dinner?
We eat more often than we play golf.
I would say my view for dinner, because practice for me is, I need to hit a dozen or a dozen and a half balls, and hit a few putts, and then I'm ready to go. So, I would say the view from dinner is important to me, and I would say, let me ask my wife, what do you think, honey? I suspect she would say the same.
I love the waterfall. I don't like the black water coming out of the wall. I don't think that's very attractive. But I do like the waterfall. But if I could get putting green and greater length, I would respectfully say I think that would be an improvement on what we have now. Maybe the pond could be reduced. There could still be something there because I agree it's a nice view from the patio without the black water. But maybe there's a win-win there. But I do think we need, as Joe said, probably some more putting space for the wear and tear, and probably a little bit more improvement to the practice length.
Well, you certainly have space over there in what we call no man's land, where you're talking about a halfway house potentially being for an additional putting green that would be over there by number one, and just to the left of the driving range.
Good option.
So that you didn't have to take the waterfall out to do that, so.
They'll already use as that little green it's ideal, you can chip sort of, and you can, it's ideal, really.
I think it would be a great idea. I don't know if I'm on mute or not, but I vote for the waterfall. But I'd like to see the waterfall versus greater length of the putting green, of the driving range in a survey. Let's see what the people say. I don't know if you could hear that. Doesn't sound like you could.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I have one other question for the design team. Are you aware that the bunkers on North are filled with Better Billy bunker material?
Not yet, we're not.
Okay, be aware of that. How much will that add to the cost every time you change a bunker?
Nothing.
Okay. Where are we gonna put the material?
Right, it'll get buried. It's just rock,
Okay.
just gravel.
And at some point, the last designer that designed our South Course that was here said that we'd probably get $6 million worth of income from the sale of the excavated materials. I don't know if Bill remembers that. I do.
I didn't remember the number being quite that big, Mr. Dunn, but
It was in the millions, though, wasn't it?
into the calculus. We all remember that.
Project coordinating.
No, if anything, we probably would like to generate more dirt so that we could create more landforms, more interest. I have a feeling that aesthetic, would add some aesthetic appeal that everybody would like.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I just wasn't sure you knew.
Yeah. What else do you have on your list?
Bill, not to look backwards, or to be critical in any way, but I'd like to frame this question about the South Course in that, in retrospect, I think this is just sensational what you're doing here. There was no attempt to do that, to my knowledge, prior to the project of the South Course.
We obviously learned our lesson.
Thank you. I just want to compliment the management, Bryce Straka, and the members of the committee for allowing this. This is fabulous.
Yes, sir. So between the kickoff town hall, these stakeholder meetings, the survey opportunity, future town halls, once we get a little further in the design process, every member here is going to have an opportunity. We're going to make doggone sure, and I think that's just the way they operate, make doggone sure that everybody has an opportunity to give their input so that there is no question where we're going when it goes to a vote.
Agreed.
A question for you, on 16 North, is it feasible or possible to, fill in that creek, put a pipe in there so that you could get a driver there and, a wheel driver, have a wheel, not go in the creek?
Potentially. Potentially.
We asked the engineer that same question. It came up earlier because it does cost quite a bit. There was issues with your canals across Clay. But that gets in that need to have, want to have kind of discussion. I think that's even visible.
So right. Work would be open to that?
I think that is something that could be entertained.
I'd be very surprised.
Because like through the community,
Because
so
we
it's
have.
not, right, there is, right, so I mean, there's precedent for it.
But what that would mean cost-wise, this is.
We fight, some big canals before, but they're not cheap.
We're caution. Lake Fork Drainage District is tough to deal with, so.
The reason I ask is, if you could move that key over to that sandy area, and kind of get away from being so close to the right side of those houses, because, the drives get over there in everybody's backyard and bouncing off houses and everything else.
Right.
Move it over, fill in part of that, just with a drain, not all the way across the golf course, but on that hole. It would make for a better hole. Obviously, I have no idea or insight about what the drainage authority or the cost would be. I just wanted to get this.
Yes. And the question is if you move those tees to the left, it could make the problem worse for those homes over here on the right.
They'd be heading towards there.
Right, so that becomes, because that's probably
But don't
the
move the
narrowest.
creek, just fill in the creek there.
Well,
But that is a challenge you guys are gonna have to deal with. We've got 4 homeowners down that right side that get peppered, and we're gonna have to figure out how to try to protect them a little better.
so the interesting thing is that when we looked at that canal there, we thought maybe that was done in the last iteration, moving it, because there's, that's like looking at the map.
Right.
Right, you got those curves, and I thought maybe that was done at some, but they weren't, that tax rate predates that, probably before you were even here, I would.
Oh, yeah, that's been.
That might have been original to the golf course, those curves, for that reason. The problem is now is that forecasting ahead, there's a distance issue, it's only gonna get worse. So there's just gonna be more and more people that end up not being able to hit driver there.
That really makes me feel badly.
Now,
That canal's a great equalizer, isn't it?
The one thing that the ladies, and I alluded to it before, and I don't want to speak for the ladies, whatever I did, it's, will we be able to incorporate sort of tee-it-forward course for the women, even though they may not know they like that?
yes. It's funny you say that, because sometimes that's actually the most difficult, one of the most difficult obstacles to overcome, is that you have the separation between really good female players, and then higher handicap female players, and sometimes they don't want to give up that, their advantage. But yes, it's very common to put out tees now right around 4,000, 4,200 yards.
Yeah, it's been a huge success on the south, and numbering them versus.
Numbering.
Yeah, it's been a huge success, so
Yeah.
I would absolutely
Yeah, I would think that we would.
keep that.
You said you got a lot of information from the data loggers.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you can share yet, or is it too soon?
I haven't, no, because I haven't, the process is that they come from the golf course, the raw data goes in, and so we keep looking at the raw data just to make sure that, actually, it's not, is Harry still on here? I was gonna say, I think, where did it go? It didn't go to Home Depot, where did it go? Walmart? I forget where. Trader Joe's. Sorry, Mr. King, but that was the funniest thing last week. He goes, I bet your data logger program didn't anticipate a trip to Trader Joe's. So I wonder what aisle you were in. I was looking to see. But that's, so we're just making sure that it's coming in good, in good form. That's not the first time that's happened, by the way. But, let's see, what else? Anything else in your list?
And we haven't touched on anything like putting course or little par 3 course within the range and other concepts we've approached other clubs with, so.
Yeah,
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, go ahead, run with it.
Oh, so, I guess, I'll throw it out to the room, the want to have to incorporate, a putting course at the clubhouse that might be tied in with evening events, how important would that be? And then the second question is, on some courses, we've done internal par 3 courses within a driving range. So, maybe some clubs have a date night, right? We'll do it on like a Wednesday night, wind down Wednesdays, grab a glass of wine and with your spouse go and knock it around. It could be a 6-hole course, doesn't really matter. And are there this club, maybe it's more younger kids that are visiting or grandkids, is that a want to have, or is that been kicked around with the club? Either.
When wifey's happy, everybody's happy.
Well, I think you could certainly, Jan and I had this conversation the other day, and when we were with the master planner, and the area there that we call no man's land.
Right.
is right off, it's just to the left of the driving range, and it's right off the cart staging area. And so if there was ultimately a restroom facility, a comfort station, halfway house, whatever that was there, and you chose to put your main putting green there, and then came back over to the clubhouse where the current putting green is, and did a putting course there that could be lit at night, that increased the ambience of the dining right out there at night, particularly when all of your kids and grandkids are here during the holiday season, might be a really cool thing. So I certainly think it's an opportunity of something to look at.
So we've done a number of those, and Patrick's right. So I mean, you're talking about your view of for dinner, right? And I know that water adds a certain element to it, but that could get incorporated into even the putting course, right? I mean, there's been as elaborate as seating walls with planters in it and flowers, and I mean, it can get pretty elaborate there, where it almost looks like a landscape garden more than anything. So it's sort of dual utility. That may be, right, so that came to pass, that may be something that we would look at to say, all right, we'll move the putting green over to no man's land. Maybe we look at doing something like that, but a little bit more elaborate. So it's got a nice landscape component to it. Grab some of the space from the water, you know, maybe not the waterfalls, but maybe at least from the pond, you know, and then add more utility into the practice. So maybe
waterfall closer to the building.
right, and maybe a win-win-win. We've actually designed it to where it's actually, they have the waterfall and it'll cut through the putting course. And there was a walk bridge over the top of it.
Maybe we put it somewhere else. Yeah. Bill, I'm sure you're aware of how many rounds that we log every year. And in 2008, when everybody said golf was dead, we were logging more women's rounds than any other course, I think, in South Florida. Bill, are we unusual in the number of rounds that we log per day?
No, we're at the top end. We're golf centric as a clubbing community compared to maybe some of the clubs and communities just south of us, which are I would define as more food and beverage centric and maybe less golf centric. But you know, when I talk to other clubs, they're playing similar rounds. When we talk to like the Broken Sound or something like that down there, they're playing somewhere close. I mean, within 10% of where we're at, I'd say.
Other question on the chat board. I think we might have already answered it, but I'll read it nonetheless.
Okay.
Out of respect to the person that took the time to type it. I'd like to hear about the possibility of putting the snack bar back to avoid golfers having to come back to the clubhouse to grab a drink, et cetera, after playing the South Course. It really slows up play as it is located out of the way. So I think we kind of addressed it, but
Yeah, so I would say to you, I think that was Mr. Chick that asked that question, and I would say to you that, Dick, bust the buck, I'm sorry, we got, that certainly came through in the survey, and that's why we've added it to the list for the master planner to consider, and so I think we'll have some stuff to share with the members this fall for them to look at, and we'll probably take everybody's temperature on it once we get something and say, here are some options for us to consider. What do you think?
so in short, it's on the table.
It's on the table, yes, sir.
I have a question. Can you hear me? Yeah, my name is Frank Donato. I live in the Osprey section. I've been a member for about 4 or 5 years. I have a specific suggestion for 12 North. It's a par 3 over the water. It's around 125 yards. My suggestion is, I play with a group where when we play, it's like green whites. Generally, you're supposed to hit from the whites. We play from the greens because the greens is a little bit to the right. If you play from the whites and you're in the water, now you have a choice either to play directly to the green again or play to the right. What I'm suggesting is either move, when you're playing green whites, move the tee to the greens, or if you keep it at the whites, have a drop area down toward the right there, so you're not having another forced carry. You understand what I said? Similar to 4. having a drop area instead of reloading and hitting over the water. Did I make myself clear? We're talking 12 north. It's a forced carry. And I'm saying either move the green-white tee to the greens, so you're hitting at an angle, or if you hit in the water, have a drop area on the right-hand side of the pond. So you're hitting 3 onto the green rather than 4. If you follow, that's my thought.
We do, and we agree. So that's why when we were talking about number 4, and we had that sort of discussion about the farther back you are, so the more skilled golfers got a harder angle and not only, so it's a harder angle and typically a longer shot.
Right.
So that's, there's a case where that wasn't done, even though it's aesthetically nice, but you're going shorter, but it's a harder angle.
It's my suggestion. I'm a high handicapper. I used to, I played this game for 60 years, and now I'm a high handicapper. And if I hit the ball in the water, I have to reload and hit into the water again. I'd rather, or hit to the right and be hitting four on my next shot. The other way, I'm hitting 3 on my next shot. That's it. Thank you very much for thinking of it.
I agree.
Yeah, okay. It's a simple thing. You just got to make a little drop area, or move the, everyone hits when you're hitting green, white. On that hole, you hit green, or make a drop area, making a little area where you drop and hit your 3rd shot. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Our pleasure. Anything else from Zoom? See, when we started, I told you we're 1 hour and 35 minutes now, so it goes by pretty quick.
Sure does.
Yeah. Thank you.
We sure will, thank you.
Our pleasure.
This is awesome.
We're going to see a lot of you.
Absolutely.
I hope you don't mind.
Well, for those on Zoom, thank you so much for zooming in. We've got another one at 5 o'clock if you didn't hear enough on this one, and another one at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Right now, tomorrow morning's very lightly attended, so if you've got a cup of coffee and just want to jump on again, feel free.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Bill.
I like being.
Thank you.
Great discussion.